So we're here at VaynerMedia. We're talking about wine, the launch of Empathy Wines. Wine in itself is a fun product. So we're gonna have a little bit of fun on this interview. I'm here with John Troutman and Nate Scherotter, the co-founders of Empathy Wines. This is the first interview, so I'm really excited to get the exclusive with you gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's jump into it. Empathy Wines, what is it?
So Empathy Wines is a direct-to-consumer winery that we co-founded with Gary Vaynerchuk, a guy that we worked for a long time and are now partners with. So we are, Gary, Nate, myself, all come from a wine background. So we started with him working in a couple of different contexts in the wine industry. I started with him in a couple of wine tech startups. One was Corked, a wine social network, back at a time when everybody was launching niche social networks. I later started Daily Grape with him, which was a mobile wine app for video content, specifically for wine. And then most recently spent time at VaynerMedia with Gary before kind of starting this new project.
Yeah, so we're a winery out of California. We're sourcing grapes from some really great growers in the surrounding Napa area. And so it's called Empathy Wines pretty intentionally. One, because Gary talks about empathy quite a bit, and in a lot of his content, it's kind of a core pillar in how he built his legacy and his businesses. But also on the back of the bottle, it's going to say empathy for the farmer, empathy for you. And so through this process, we really want to highlight kind of like the unsung heroes in this winemaking process, the people who grow the grapes that get in this bottle. So we're working with great growers from Lodi, Mendocino, and Lake County, including Clay Shannon in Lake County, the Metler family in Lodi, Marcus Bokish in Lodi, and Scott Bilbrough in Mendocino. And so really the goal is to highlight these farmers, produce a really great bottle of wine that's $20 shipped to your door that would cost you $40, $45 at a retail store, because we're cutting out the middlemen in the wine business. So we're cutting out the distributor, we're cutting out the wholesaler, the retailer, cutting out those markups so we can deliver a really great bottle of wine for a really good price.
We love it. So Empathy Wines, from what I understand, you're sourcing from different growers out there, different vineyards, as opposed to having your own vineyard and go through that whole process of making wine, because you guys are the marketers, right? Yep. And Gary, as we all know and love, he is a genius. It seems like he has that Midas touch. Anytime he touches wine or sneakers or, you know, speakers now even, it takes off. And we saw recently with the launch, he was doing a telethon right here in this office to go ahead and promote it. What I find pretty cool is both of your stories. You both have a history working with Gary. With you, John, I didn't realize you've been with Gary for a very long time. You mentioned Daily Grape. Nate, we were talking a little bit. You were involved with Jab, 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 Right Hook. You started off as an intern. So I know, as someone that's followed Gary and now also a customer of Empathy Wines, I want to point out.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure to support you gentlemen and Gary as well. But like, I'm really curious to know, how does one become a business partner with Gary Vee?
Yeah, I mean, I can go through my story super quickly. So I started as an intern at Wine Library in the summer of 2009, I believe, so almost 10 years ago. And I was interested in wine at the time, and I saw this crazy character online reviewing wine. Just was really interesting to me, and how he was talking about it, how he's making it approachable and accessible, and you could tell that he had this like business chops behind him too. And I'm just like, I want to work for that guy. So I sent him a random email. I was like, "Dear Mr. Vaynerchuk, my name is Nathan and I'm interested in wine." And his assistant responded and said, "Come out to New Jersey for the summer." And so just worked in New Jersey, took inventory, did a lot of intern work, spent a couple days with Gary. He liked me, brought me back for the next summer. And then kind of just stuck with him. You know, I kind of followed his career a little bit, worked at VaynerMedia, or did one of his book launches, and then worked at VaynerMedia. And then me and John kind of grew into like chiefs of staff for Gary, more or less. So we've been really close to him for quite some time, and just kind of provided value along the way. You know, worked as an intern, you know, wine tech startups at VaynerMedia, and helping it grow from 30 to 800 people over the past 6 years.
From a timeline standpoint, how long ago was that? So when did you start working at Wine Library as an intern?
Library for me was summer of 2009. And then I started working full-time at VaynerMedia summer of 2011.
Okay, so about 10 years now.
Yeah.
John, how about you?
Similarly, I started at Corked right after Nate, so in the summer of 2009. then Daily Break a couple of years after that, and then VaynerMedia, really the bulk of the time, the last 6 or 7 years. So similar timeline of about a decade. I mean, similar story to Nate, where he kind of checked every box of interest, which is how I initially found him, between wine, tech, and business savvy. When it comes to like kind of Gary and the way he develops and hones talent, it's alternative. It's not your traditional mentorship style. And yet I think that's probably what worked for Nate and I, in that we learned through osmosis by being really close to him and observing the way that he operated his businesses and kind of marketed and sold products, and kind of following suit. I don't want to speak for Gary, but I've got to believe he has ambition to do more of this too, almost in like a Bobby Knight, Coach K model, where all of these coaches stem from the top and then they kind of breed from there and grow talent. They go off and do other things with each other and kind of partner together.
Or perhaps like a Bill Parcells model,
Yes.
Bill Belichick type model, right?
Exactly.
Where it's like all the assistants end up becoming head coaches, in this case founders and CEOs. I love it because we talk about, or we see Gary with his hustle and how he's grown his empire here with VaynerMedia, VaynerX, all the other brands, Empathy Wines being one of them now. And it's great to hear that talent's being developed from within. Like the interns and scouts and assistants now are C-suite executives, which is phenomenal. So let's talk about the project. At what point was there conversations being had internally, whether from Gary or from others here, that this was a direction that you were going to go?
Yeah, I mean, at a high level, you can get into the wine stuff, but at a high level, we worked at VaynerMedia proper for 6-7 years, and we both had ambitions to start a brand, do a brand. I think wine was the most logical for us with our backgrounds and with Gary's background. So Gary knew, from pretty early on that he wanted us to learn from him, help build the agency, but this was going to be an inevitable kind of thing if we continue to deliver. And so, I think the idea of we will do something started years and years ago, but the talk about the wine company was probably, August of last year?
Yeah, so almost a year and a half ago.
Was this when Gary went to Napa and there was a photo of him with a cowboy hat on? Or no, I'm sorry, he was like in a vineyard? Was that when this happened?
That was about 6 months into it or so.
Yeah, it's a little bit into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he already knew, like the idea was already there, the wheels were turning, there was this secret wine project that came to fruition. Actually, I think you and I might have exchanged some emails around secret wine project.
Yep.
And I figured, all right, knowing Gary and that he's a wine connoisseur, he's either going to start up a vineyard, Vayner Wines, or it's going to be a product like Empathy Wines, direct to consumer.
Yeah. The only thing I would add maybe to like what Nate described is, at VaynerMedia, so many of the brands that they'll work with are in the CPG category, so similar to wine. And in those categories, you watch so many disruptors come along and take market share from a lot of these Fortune 500 companies by selling direct to consumer. And meanwhile, we said we have all the same wherewithal in order to be able to do the creative, the marketing, the strategy, and at the same time, we know this industry better than anybody else, so why not tackle the wine industry like nobody's done it before?
So let's break this down. Sales and marketing meets wine. You're competing with like the Gallos and Mondavis of the world. Kind of speak to that.
Yeah, Gallos and Mondavis, but also, there's wine clubs that have been popping up over the past 3 to 4 years, like a Wink or First Leaf for naked wines that kind of are fragmented in terms of people are trying like 20, 25 different things a year. We wanted to go a different route and build a singular brand around wine. So something like Wink, you get a package of 4 wines, all different labels. 2 months later, you get a package of all four different wines, different labels. We consciously said, let's build a Casamigos for wine in a digital way. A singular brand that someone could look at the bottle, know exactly what it is, know the story behind it, know they're getting a really good bottle for the price. And whether it's, if you drink a $13 bottle of wine, kind of elevating that a little bit and having like a really spectacular wine that you can bank on every time, or creating a $20 wine for people that drink $40, $50, $80 wines that can be like a fantastic house wine, something to open at a party, and just a really delicious wine. So a little bit different than the wine clubs, and definitely a lot more 2018 than like a Gallo.
So for someone that's not familiar, and like I wholeheartedly agree in terms of from brand perception standpoint, I mentioned those brands because they're legacy brands. It's what my mom and dad drank. as I was coming up, it's also what you find in your local supermarket that's at a more affordable price point. Now, let's talk about, in today's day and age, like you said before, direct consumer is a term that you hear a lot in the marketing world. For someone who's not familiar with that phrase, what does direct to consumer mean?
Yeah, so direct to consumer essentially means you're cutting out the traditional retailer in the equation. It's going directly from the producer, shipped to your doorstep. Now, if we were to hone in on direct to consumer for wine specifically, that's a little bit even more different. So what so many people don't realize is when they're buying a bottle of wine, it's touched a lot of different hands. So it starts in the vineyard and then the winery where the wine's actually made. From there, legally, it's typically required to go to the distributors. There are different distributors in each of the 50 states. Those distributors then sell at a very big markup to retailers and restaurants, who then ultimately sell it to you and you put it in your glass. We're cutting out two of the layers in that equation, which means there's, in this case, double the cost savings of maybe any other category that you're buying in. And so for us, it's what's allowed us to be able to produce what would otherwise be a $40 bottle of wine for $20, arriving direct to your doorstep. So there's that convenience aspect of it too. And it's something we're just super excited about in that nobody's ever really done this. So these are kind of uncharted waters. There are definitely wineries that ship directly, but this is exclusively our business model, and that's what allows us to provide the cost savings.
So what sets your business model apart from others is that it is a premium wine at an affordable price point. You receive it in the mail as opposed to going to your local supermarket or liquor store to pick it up. Now let's talk about the product itself. So you have your red. Is this a Merlot or?
Yeah, so it's a Cabernet-based blend, okay. But then it's complemented by Syrah, Petit Syrah, okay. Zinfandel. And honestly, that might change year over year. So that's really intentional for us. What we want to be able to do is year over year be able to provide the best possible product that we can make. What's unique about wine is it is an agricultural good, so it's subject to Mother Nature. That means one year our Syrah vineyard might not perform as well as our Zinfandel vineyard, and because of that we want to have a little bit of flexibility. At the same token, you're going to see the same style every single year.
So limited edition release for every one of these, love it. You have your red blend, then you have your rosé.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the rosé is what they would call in the wine industry a classic Provençal style rosé. It's going to be very dry. It's going to be very crisp, clean, refreshing, something that you're comfortable drinking on a really hot summer day. At the same token, what I'm excited about with our wine is it's got some what I would call like backbone to it too, so you can drink it with food. It'll pair really well with like everything from seafood and salads up to like poultry dishes, so something like chicken.
And then you have your white. Is this a Chardonnay?
So this is maybe of the three wines, if I had to pick a favorite child, the one I'm maybe most excited about. And the reason being we've highlighted a bunch of grapes that many people haven't necessarily heard of. So there's Vermentino, okay. A classically Italian grape variety. There's Albarino, which is classically a Spanish grape variety. And then there's Viognier, which there's a lot of Viognier grown in France. And so three grapes that aren't necessarily your mom's classic house wine, but we think they work really, really well together when they're blended. And we're also just excited to expose people to something a little bit different that I think they're really gonna like.
I know as a consumer, I'm excited. Like I look at this and it's Amazon meets Total Wine being brought to my doorstep. So as a customer, what can I expect when I receive the goods in the mail? Are all three bottles showing up? Is it one? Is it happening every month?
Yeah, so wine needs time to age. The red wine needs a little bit more time to age than the white, than the rosé. So we're going to be releasing these when we feel like they're ready for consumption. So the rosé will be ready first, and this will be shipped to your door early March of 2019, followed by the white, which will be shipped in May of 2019, and then the red needs a little bit more time. This will be shipped probably August or September of 2019. So right now, if people go to empathywines.com, they can sign up for a subscription of either 3 of each, 6 of each, or a case 12 of each. And we're pushing people in that model so they can really try all three. Again, the rosé will be first, and we want to get that into people's hands before summer, as well as the white. So that's kind of the model right now. And then after the rosés were released, people will be able to go online and kind of buy as much rosé as they want.
Now let's talk about sales and marketing. You have books, you have sneakers, you have agency services.
Yeah, we got a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot happening here at VaynerMedia. Is it harder or easier to sell Empathy Wines?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess a couple things. Like Empathy Wines is a completely separate company from VaynerMedia in the VaynerX world. We're our own entity. Me and John are 100% focused on the wine brand. In terms of is it easier or harder, it depends. I mean, I think that we're giving the customer a kind of a unique value proposition and a really good wine for the price. And so if you're a wine drinker and you understand what's going on in the economics of the wine world, it's a fairly easy thing to sell. At the same time, we're not naive to the fact that no one's tasted these wines before, right? So they're trusting us that we are making a $40 wine that costs $20, but we're pumped for when the wine comes out for people to taste it and how much easier it will be to sell after that.
When I think about selling any product, whether it's wine or books or agency services or whatever it might be, it's having empathy for what the end consumer ultimately wants or needs, and then also just having total conviction in the product. And I think in this case, we have kind of both of those things. So we know the wine industry really well, and we know the pain points of consumers typically, and so we're putting ourselves in their shoes and kind of taking that perspective into account. And then it's also a product that we really believe in. Like, we're working with awesome farmers that we're growing amazing grapes, and the winemaking in the direction with Gary at the helm of it, really, we're making a great product that we can stand behind.
One of the things that stood out before at the very beginning was when you mentioned the name Empathy came from empathy for growers specifically. So being though that Empathy Wines is a Gary Vaynerchuk company, and he does have VaynerMedia, how involved will VaynerMedia be in creating content around the process, the growers, the partners involved? Will there be separate Instagram or YouTube or media presence specifically for this brand?
Yeah, so we definitely have the luxury and the benefit of quite literally sitting in this office right now. So we're sitting next door to some of the greatest creative minds, some of the greatest paid media and customer acquisition minds in the space. And so we'll definitely be tapping into those brains and that IP and the smarts in order to be able to grow the brand. When it comes to how we market it, they'll definitely have their own individual channels. So across Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, check us out and follow us. It's something that we're spending a lot of time on, and especially like developing individual strategies for all those channels.
How involved will Gary be ultimately with the marketing of it? Like we're seeing right now on his birthday with the announcement, he was here in this room. There was like the telethon approach on Instagram and Facebook Live, and I see Gary on his feed promoting it actively. Will we continue to see that? Will Gary continue to be the main face of the brand? Maybe you can speak to that.
I would say in the short term, yes. I mean, this is a big project for all three of us. It's something that his name will definitely be attached to for quite some time. At the same time, we're very ambitious with this brand. We have really high aspirations for it. So as we grow year over year, we want this to become kind of a known brand in households around America. And so we wanted to kind of transcend Gary a little bit, but he'll definitely be at the helm of the marketing quite a bit.
Now you mentioned high aspirations. What are those aspirations?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Maybe speak to if you guys can think all right, we're 5 years in this journey. What does the next 5 years look like?
Yeah, I think for us, Nate used the term household. We want to become the household brand for wine drinkers that they know they can reliably turn to in order to get a great bottle of wine in a new and modern way too, with convenience at the forefront of it delivered to their doorstep. So what that means, that's a very lofty and ambitious goal, right? You named some of the iconic names, whether it be a Mondavi or a Kendall Jackson or some of these household names that our parents grew up with. We'd love to be the next version of that in a 2020 sort of way.
Nice. Gentlemen, on a closing note, and once again, congratulations. I'm really excited, both as a customer and also a longtime follower of Gary's, and also hearing your story. Also, it's just amazing being able to see and understand now the position that you guys are in through the hard work. On a closing note, where can viewers out there learn more about Empathy Wines, connect with both of you, and more importantly, where can they purchase it?
Cool. Yeah, our website's up and running, www.empathywines.com. As John said, we're at Empathy Wines on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the channels. And then best place to hit me up is either at Nate S on Twitter, or just shoot me an email at Nate@EmpathywInes, and happy to chat.
Yeah, at Trouty on all the social platforms. Love to hit you guys up, talk wine. Yeah, really enjoyed the time together.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you.
One more question, if I can sneak one in. Will there be any influencer marketing used in order to support the sales and marketing and promotion of the wines?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you'll see some stuff in December and January pop up with some influencer marketing, but definitely when the rosé hits consumers' doorsteps, you'll see a lot of influencer marketing starting then throughout the year for sure.
So stay tuned then.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. Once again, congratulations and the best of luck in this venture.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.